Greetings, everyone. Welcome to our July 20th Brunch and Learn. My name is Japera Denson, and I am representing the qualified today and want to send warm greetings to everyone who has logged in so far and joined us. We have an awesome time prepared and in store for you today. As you can see, our speaker for today is Mr. Aaron Taylor, RHIA, who is going to be speaking with us for the next hour about HIM in the law firm. So just before we get started, I want to share a little bit of information with you about the qualified. Again, as we welcome everyone and get everyone entered and get everyone access, we have some people that are still joining us, so we're going to continue to allow people to come in as the day goes forward. But a little bit about the qualified. So if you do not know about us, we are an educational and employer support service that helps you become certified, stay certified, and if you are an employer, we help you hire qualified individuals or qualified professionals. So becoming qualified, how do we do that? We help you accomplish your certifications. We help you get tutoring. We help you with certification exam success and all types of things. We have one-on-one coaching available as well. If you are already certified, you hold some type of HIM credential or coding credential, then we help you stay qualified by providing you with events like this, our monthly brunch and learns, where we provide one CEU for the next hour that you have in store with us while you receive rich and helpful information. And then also, if you're an employer, we help you hire qualified. So if you need to advertise for a position that you have open in your facility, then please do contact us. We have our email address, or excuse me, our website down to the bottom of the screen for you. So if you want to check out our website, we encourage you to do so. So everyone, listen, the brunch and learns are an hour long. But I am so excited about today's presentation from Mr. Taylor. I think this is going to be so good. I hope you're ready. I hope you have some a piece of paper, a pen, something, so that you can take some notes. Go ahead and open up your notepad, your app, your Word app, whatever it is you need, so that you can take notes for today, because it is without a doubt that I believe that you will be enriched from today's presentation. We're going to jump right into it because we want him to have as much time as possible to share his knowledge and his expertise with us. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to present to you Mr. Aaron Taylor with today's presentation, Health Information Management Professionals in a Law Firm. Aaron, it's over into your hands.
Thank you, Ms. Shapiro, for that warm welcome. Welcome. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you so much for joining us, the qualified. I have so much information that I want to share with you guys, and I'm truly grateful. This has been an amazing turnout, and I'm truly grateful for this opportunity. I am trying to get my video up, but it's doing something funky. So I think I'm gonna just speak from the screen. I do apologize about that. I do like to be personable. I am currently in Florida. Me and my family are taking a trip. So, I think that might be it. Maybe it's the hotel Wi-Fi. So I do apologize about that. But please let me know if you guys hear me okay, and if there's any issues with, with the sound or with the video or anything like that. But yeah, if it's okay with everyone, I'd love to get started. I'd like to first start out by saying, if there's any questions, please definitely feel free to ask during the presentation. This presentation, everything that I say, oh, it's loud. I'm sorry. So during this presentation, everything that I say, I do want, I love feedback. I do want to answer as many questions as I possibly can, and just share the information, because just this field, being in a law firm, it's an amazing field, and it's an amazing opportunity to be anywhere inside of the law firm, because it gives you such a fresh look at something different, other than what I'm sure a lot of us are used to. So please ask as many questions as you can. The chat is open for, during each slide. We have, I believe, Miss Julia is going to be the one to monitor. Miss Julia and Ms. Shapiro are going to be the one to monitor the chat. for anybody who has any questions. And if you want to hold your question to the end, I mean, that's perfectly okay. And if you also want to reach out to me, I believe they're going to provide my information at the end to, if you have any questions outside of this webinar. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first slide. So what we're going to be working on today, like I said, is we want to understand the role or the roles that are available for HIM professionals, HIM management, HIM or HIT professionals, things like that. Yeah, okay. Yeah, HIM professionals, health information technician professionals, and what those roles may look like in a law firm. I'm also going to provide you, with the information as far as like what skills, what different qualifications you may need, what the jobs are going to look like, how to get the jobs, what the job, how much you would make, potentially could make at each job. And then I also provide tips for how to secure the job. So that's why I said bring a pencil and paper, because a lot of what I say, it doesn't follow the slide exactly, and of course I'm going to add additional information. So just have that available. I believe they're also recording this, so I don't know if this is going to also be shared. But if it's not, then definitely have that information, that pen and paper handy so you can write down and jot down the different information that I provide. So a little bit about me. I started my HIM journey as a record specialist back in 2016. And what's interesting is I actually was not going to be an HIM. I was actually going to be a veterinarian. And I started out as a veterinary technician. I was in school for that. And I decided to switch gears just because of how I was looking at the field, what it could potentially do for my son, with the different, I don't know, I see somebody say same. So when we started learning about zoonotic diseases and how they could affect babies and things like that, I had to kind of switch gears. So got into this field, like many of us, to get something remote, get something that seemed lucrative, that seemed like it could also, fulfill my want to be in the healthcare field. So started out with Navex Global, which is an insurance reporting company. And then I went from there to a bunch of different places. Like I worked at an orthopedic office. I worked at a hospice facility. For a lot of us who had to do our, what are those things called? Our PPTs or not PPTs. For when we had to graduate, we had to do some, what are they called? Uh-oh. I don't know what just happened, but we had to do some volunteer work, or we had to, to graduate. Yeah, PPE. Thank you. I did that at a hospice facility, and then we also did. I also worked at a HEDIS facility. I've been to a lot of different types of facilities, all in the clinical realm. And so after 2019, 2021. I wanted to, and after gaining my bachelor's and gaining my RHIA and RHIT, I wanted to kind of step away from those fields, because what I noticed was not only were they similar, but they were lacking in pay, and they were lacking in appreciation for my knowledge of HIM. I just felt like a lot of the things that I was doing wasn't really being seen, and my skills weren't really being utilized. So I was reached out to by a it was like a legal recruiter, and I've never heard of this before. It was a legal recruiter. I added their contact information in the back, so you'll see that in a few. But she reached out to me and she asked me if I was interested in being a medical paralegal, and I was like, whoa! I've heard of paralegals, but I've never heard of a medical paralegal. So when she presented that, it sparked my interest. I got into it and, went through the process, studied the field, looked up the law firm, and I was like, I'm interested. I loved it. And so, yeah, so I'm here to explain that opportunity and explain everything that I went through as far as the beginning, what they did, the process of me getting hired, the process of what it looked like for me to work there, and where I'm currently at now. So on to the next slide. So the different sections that we're going to cover in this presentation. So I'm going to go over the career options that you may see, including the medical paralegal one that I was first introduced to. I'm going to go over the salary range for what you'll make in these different career options. I'm going to also talk about the importance of HIM and HIT in a law firm and that's the information that I want to make sure that I drive home, because that's the information that you want to put on your resumes. You want to, and when you get into these different, you know, what are they? I'm at a loss for words today. I got a lot of people here today. So when you get into these different like interviews and things like that, you want to be able to explain what it is that you can bring to the table, because one thing that I will explain is that lawyers are looking for how you can help them. How can you better serve them? Because they're all about what you can do for them, basically. Then the different roles and responsibilities you'll see in the law firm, skills and qualifications you'll need for the work that you'll be doing, and see if we can keep going. There's challenges. There are different challenges and opportunities that you'll see when working in a law firm that a lot of people don't, that you might not see any other place. But specifically in a law firm, you'll see certain challenges and certain opportunities of growth that you won't see anywhere else. And then finally, tips for securing a position as a medical paralegal. So I know we have an hour, so I'm gonna try and get through as much information as I can and drop as many jewels as I can. So going through the first slide. So here are the different career options for an HIM professional in a law firm. Like I stated, a medical paralegal is essentially a legal professional that specializes in medicine, or that specializes in the understanding of medical information. So if you don't know anything about paralegals, a paralegal is somebody who essentially is like the assistant of a lawyer. They do everything that a lawyer needs. It's like the nurse of a hospital. They can draft letters, they conduct research on healthcare laws, they review the medical records for the lawyers, they prepare for medical cases, they prepare for legal cases. They do so much. It's almost like they're the lawyer's backbone, because they do so much. And it's like I said, you have to have a vast knowledge of a lot of different things to become a medical paralegal. And they look for that when you try and get into those roles. The next is the health information management specialist, which a lot of us already know from being in a clinical setting, is essentially somebody who's similar to a medical paralegal. They'll help, or they'll assist the like the law firm with different things like retrieving records, or the storage of records, or making sure that they're HIPAA compliant. Kind of, like I said, they kind of do the same thing, except they just don't have that role, and they may not do the reviewing of medical records. They may not, but in most cases, I don't see that they do that. I see that they handle the storage and the compliance of HIPAA, the storage of records and the compliance of HIPAA. And then an HIT professional or specialist, they handle the EHR system. So even like clinics and even like hospitals, law firm has an EMR and EHR system, or something of the sort. They just don't, I don't believe that they call it that. They typically have what they call like a legal case system, which is exactly the same as an EHR system. That's where they hold all of their case information. They hold all of their medical records. They hold all of the because when you get into the role, or when you see the roles, you'll see that they hold pictures of like accidents, like car accidents, slip and falls, the building, the layouts, things like that. And all of that is in their legal case system. So it's essentially the same thing. A compliance officer, that's making sure that the facility is in compliance with HIPAA regulations. You'll see a lot of these other positions in like compliance officer, health information management specialist, and health information technology specialist in larger law firms. You won't necessarily see them in like the mid-size or the smaller law firms. But when you get into the larger law firms, I'm going to explain that and what those can kind of look like, because those can actually be a little bit more difficult than the mid-size and the smaller ones for a medical paralegal and for these different positions. Um, and then litigation support specialist and legal assistant, these aren't necessarily roles that an HIM and HIT go for or are hired for, but we can potentially get these roles only because they do handle reaching out to different facilities and hospitals and clinics and orthopedic offices and things like that for medical records. So we can actually be in these roles as well. But it's something that we don't really know about because, it's not presented to us. So look out for those roles as well, because they definitely will look for your ability to reach out to these facilities if you have correspondence experience, or if you have roles that you've been very communicative in, they'll look out for you for that. All right, so next slide. All right, so the salary range. This is one of the big things that I discussed with the legal people when I first was hired on. So like I said, I was hired on in May, or excuse me, in 2020, 2020, I believe. And the medical paralegal role that they hired me for was offering 60K at the time. Um, that was the highest paying job I've held then, and it was the highest paying job by far. I came from Ciox when I believe they hired me from Ciox and from HEDIS, and at those two positions, they wanted to pay, I believe, even with my RHIT, they wanted to pay around 20 to 22 an hour. And then I went to this position that, jumped me from that to, like, I think 60K is 20, 30. I think it's 30 something. Somebody want to correct my math, I don't know, but it's something around that. And I also helped somebody else get into a position at that same law firm. Now, she didn't hold the credential of RHIT, but she did go to school for it, and she did have a background in HIM, and they started her off at 55. So still an amazing pay, still higher than much of the positions that I've seen in HI as an HIM professional doing an entry level position. Because remember, these positions that I'm discussing are still considered entry level. You can go higher, of course, and you can be the senior level paralegal, or the mid-level paralegal, or the paralegal that trains people and get more pay. And that's what these breakdowns are. So medical paralegals can make between 45 and 65 per year. And they can make upwards of 80, even higher than that per year. My last medical paralegal position before the position that I'm in now, they were paying 75. And that was coming from the other law firm, the first law firm that I had worked at, and, negotiating for 75. So definitely is possible, especially with experience, especially with the certification. And, it's like I said, it's an amazing field. I'll get into what you'll be doing as a medical paralegal in a few, but definitely an amazing field if you're looking for better pay and sometimes better hours. So health information management specialists, they can make between 35 and 50. I believe we all know this position as well. So it's 35, 50, and upwards of 65 and 85, depending on your credentials and your experience. HIT is similar because they deal in tech. Tech is a little bit more sought after. So I believe they pay more. So it's 40 to 55, and then senior positions 75 to 95 plus, depending on your experience. And then do they normally have remote positions? Yes, Ms. Shamira, they definitely do have remote positions. My actual last law firm was a remote position, and the law firm before that was hybrid. So I worked in an office three days and worked from home 2 days. And they were actually going to switch to remote purely, but because we had so many things that we needed to send out, they didn't like, as far as like faxes and mail, because you do have to mail the different clinics and offices sometimes. Because they had that, we couldn't be strictly remote. So, Ms. Shapiro, next slide. Yes, ma'am. You're welcome. All right. So, and then for compliance officers, of course, like I said, they're going to be paid a little bit more. That's a specific field. You have to have compliance experience. So, specific fields cause for, additional money. So 45 to 60 as entry level. I don't really see entry level positions for law firms when it comes to this position, because this is like, I believe they consider you like a CO, what is it, a CCO or something along those lines. So you're looking at higher pay for those positions in a law firm. It's not really entry level position. So that's with the compliance officer. Litigation support specialists. These are also, you can consider these as paralegals. They're essentially paralegals, but sometimes they don't call them that. So when you look for those positions, look for litigation support, look for litigation specialists, look for litigation paralegal, or just look for paralegal. And then you'll find these roles when you do your job searches and things of that nature. So yeah, so they can make between 40 and 55 if they're entry level. For us, because we don't have a paralegal certification, paralegal background, or paralegal training, we're most likely looking at that 40 to 55 or 55 to 75 if we don't have any certifications or any type of experience in HIM, meaning like, so, or in HIM law. So like I said, when I started that first law firm, they wanted to give me 60, but that's because I had an RHIT and I had experience with the different job positions that I had with reviewing medical records and things like that. And then if you have experience, you can also make between upwards of 75 to 95. And then lastly, a legal assistant. This role is basically a supportive role for the litigation support specialists and the medical paralegals. They help us to get medical records and obtain medical records so that we can review them. If they have this role, most times it's entry level. You'll see 35 to 50. I don't really see 65 to 80 unless it's a larger law firm. And that's what I was going to get into. Larger law firms send out so many requests for medical records that they may pay a little bit higher, based on the need, and that role is definitely needed. And it's important, like I added this note as well. It's important to keep in mind that these are just estimates based off of the salary, based off of my experience, what I've seen in my research. It's also estimates based off of my area because I'm not looking at every other area. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. So Atlanta is, booming for business. So, they sometimes will pay higher and they sometimes will pay lower. Based on, like I said, it's based off the law firm, based off the area, based off your credentials, your experience, and things like that. And I don't know if you guys can see it, but all the way at the bottom, it says also always remember to negotiate your pay. I've never taken the first offer on any pay that any of these jobs. They've offered something and I've countered with a little bit more and they've always said yes. So the funds are there for law firms typically. So just make sure you negotiate your pay. And that's where, when you negotiate your pay, you also want to express how important your education in this role is, and how much you can bring to the table for them. So Mr. Pierre, next slide. All right, so I made this as a condensed version of the next two slides. Essentially, the law firm should have a designated health information management team to ensure, and I listed that you want to be able to have all relevant health information properly managed. And when I say properly managed, we all understand that there are HIPAA laws, there are compliance laws, there are all these different things that require attention when handling health information. When you're in a law firm, or when if you guys do move into that law firm area, when you're in a law firm, you will notice that everything is miscombobulated. It's pretty bad because they don't have that understanding of EHR, EMR systems. They don't have that understanding of HIPAA laws, retention laws, release laws, things like that. So with our understanding of that, we have to manage that. We have to make sure to tell the law firm that, because they could get in trouble for not managing their health information properly. Um, that also comes into the next slide or next bullet point of proper monitoring and auditing of data security processes. When I would release some of the information, as far as to other opposing counsel or outside or the other clients or things like that, there would, their process would kind of fall into compliance issues. If something were to go wrong in their process, it could cause a HIPAA violation. So I had to, coming in and looking at their process, I had meetings with the lawyers, the managing partner that was over the facility. I had meetings with them and let them know, like, hey, we need to change this process. This needs to happen. This needs to happen. And that's where they saw my value, is they wanted to make sure they weren't losing money, especially with with the HIPAA violation. You don't want to have that happen to you. So they saw my value in that aspect, and if they didn't already have something in place, then they put something in place, and that and I helped to navigate that for them. And what else? All confidential health information is kept secure. So that's, like I said, with the EMR system, EHR system, you want to make sure that you're helping with them locate a good one. You're making sure that anything that is needed as far as release of information, retention of information, receiving information, anything like that is secure for them, so that way they can remain compliant with the different laws and regulations. So that is definitely important. And you will see, like, when you get into these roles, they're going to ask you a lot of questions. Even some of the paralegals will ask you a lot of questions. Some of them might not, because some of them just don't care. They have too much work. But some of them will pick your brain about just how can we make this process? How can we streamline this process? Do you know any systems that we can use? Things like that. And if they don't ask you, you can offer that information. And that's showing your worth in these companies, these different law firms. So yeah, so I also included, underneath as a sub bullet, access control, data encryption, privacy breaches, data backup protocols and procedures, things like that. Some of the first law firm that I was with, they didn't have that. They didn't have a backup protocol. They didn't have processes and procedures for access control, or the data encryption for when they sent out to, like, opposing counsel. They just kind of sent it. And I told them, hey, I don't think you should just send it. Something could get seen. Definitely let's use an encryption line. Let's encrypt our records before we send them out. So we implemented that in the process and at my position, and it was they saw value in that. So so on to the next slide. Yeah, and then if everybody wants to take a picture of this, you can. This is basically saying the same thing that I was saying, but just in bigger words. And when you get into these different positions, you want to be able to explain these things in this type of jargon. There is two different types of communication skills. There's comfortable communication, and then there's legal jargon, and then there's medical jargon, and everybody has a different way that they speak. But lawyers are very specific. They want to know what you can do. And the information that I gave you, like I said, is a condensed version of this. And they want to be able to listen to you dictate this to them. Now you can give it to them. Some of them want the abridged version, the condensed version, the small version. They want that. Some of them want this. They want you to be able to articulate what you're talking about, because you're also speaking with other hospitals, clinics, things like that. You have to know what you're talking about in certain situations, and that's what this is. When you get into that interview, you want to be able to show your importance to them, and why they should be paying you as much as they're paying you, versus paying a paralegal to do it, because we actually do get paid more than regular paralegals. In a lot of different cases, we do get paid more than paralegals. So we need to show our worth, and we need to be able to explain why we're worth that. All right, so next slide. And I believe this is oh, no, it's not. All right, so these are the different roles and responsibilities that you'll see as a paralegal and as other positions. So like I said, you'll be assisting with different correspondences with medical professionals, medical offices, insurance companies, and clinical personnel. That means you'll be calling them. Um, I even texted a few, like I got their information. You'll be calling them, texting them sometimes. Um, you'll be reaching out to them via email, fax, um, any way that you can kind of reach out to them. You'll be reaching out to them for records. You'll be reaching out to them for expert reports. You'll be reaching out to them for a multitude of different things like follow-ups, just different things. Um, it's very important to understand that you will have to correspond with these people. It's not all the time, and you might not do it as much as a legal assistant because, like I said, your legal assistant will be reaching out to these facilities for records, which is the main thing that we'll be doing. But if records aren't sent, we typically will handle the follow-up because we have to let them know, like, hey, we need these records. You're not in compliance with law such and such and such and such, so we have to be the ones to do that, and we actually type up a letter um for that. So I don't have that letter handy, but yeah, we do type up a letter for correspondences that require that are late or that haven't been fulfilled. Another thing that we'll do is educate law firm staff on the importance of maintaining the confidentiality and privacy of health information. So we're constantly educating staff. And when I say constantly, I believe in the first office, like I said, I was hybrid. And when I would come into the office, I was almost training everybody on how to use the system because, with our background, we get very comfortable with using EMR, EHR systems because we use so many that we know how to use the next one, just like we know how to use the first one. So everybody would ask me questions like, drop your, oh, okay. Yeah, everybody would ask me questions like, how do you do this? Or where do I go to go do this? And da. And I'm 1-2 months in, but I already know how to do these things. So we're constantly educating the legal staff on the systems. We're constantly educating them on, making sure that they're sending out or that they're receiving information within HIPAA regulations. We're constantly talking to them about that. So just have that education in mind, constantly brush up on it, and make sure that you understand their systems. Like the first thing you should do when you get into the office is learn their system. Learn their system and be able to teach somebody on their system because they don't know. Assisting with the resolution of disputes regarding the release of information, such as in response to subpoenas or court orders. When I say resolution of disputes, we don't necessarily do that on a daily basis, but because we do handle the medical records and the expert cases, we will sometimes get, disputes from opposing counsel or from an outside source that basically says, hey, we never got these records. Can you send it to us? And we'll say, hey, we sent these to you. Let me just go ahead and forward them to you again. Things like that. And then even with subpoenas, those subpoenas are actually very important. So to speak lightly, they are very important. So if you see it, when you see subpoena in this field, that information was requested by a judge as opposed to like a law firm or another lawyer. So it does take precedence over a lot of different things. And so when I say assist with the resolution of disputes, sometimes things take precedence and we have to put a rush on them, or we have to de-escalate certain things, and it's because we're the medical aspect of it, so we have to send out the medical information. Preparing reports and summaries for use in court. This is the second to last one, and the next one, assisting attorneys with preparation for depositions and trial. These two go hand in hand. Typically what we do on a daily, not even typically, what we do on a daily basis is we do medical reviews and medical summaries, and they're called timelines. They're called timelines and chronology reports. So basically, we'll take a medical record, however many pages it is, And I'm not, if some of y'all are familiar with medical records, some of them can be 15, 20 pages. Some of them can be 1,000 to 4,000 pages. Just depends on where they went for treatment and how many pages that place has. And we will review that entire record. We'll look at it page for page, and we will give the our lawyers, a summary, basically, a visit by visit summary of what happened during those visits. Now the lawyers are looking for something specific. If the person that we're reviewing was in a car accident and they broke their leg, um, we're looking for the information pertaining to that broken leg. Where did they go for treatment? What did they do for treatment? Did they do anything did they have any other treatment places? How much did it cost for treatment? All of those things we're trying to answer for the lawyer, and we're trying to give them a rundown of what happened. Now lawyers are typically the ones that I've worked for. It was defense attorneys. So defense attorneys are trying to defend the insurance companies trying to pay out the employer. So I'm gonna just say we're basically the bad guys. Defense attorneys are basically the bad guys in the situation because they're trying to limit how much they pay out. And the opposing counsel is trying to get as much as they can from the insurance companies. So we're trying to find basically any discrepancies in those medical records. Like if that person said they broke their leg in a car accident and we find out later that they didn't, they actually broke their leg from a basketball event, but now they're saying that they broke their leg in the car accident, or saying that they may have re-injured it or something like that, but they were treating for it prior. Then we're looking for that information, and we're presenting that to the attorneys so they can present that in court during depositions and during their trials. And if you're not familiar with the term, a deposition is basically a face-to-face. It's now they're doing it virtually, but it's basically a conversation with the client, with the defendant or the plaintiff, with the plaintiff, basically asking them what happened, how did it happen, do you have any information, things like that. So we're providing them that information. All right. And these, like I said, I go through, that was the condensed version, that first one. These are going to be a little bit more in detail. So like I said earlier, we're ensuring compliance with different HIPAA laws. We're developing, implementing policies, procedures. We conduct regular audits and assessments of their system so that way we can address their different compliance gaps. And then we make sure to stay updated on their healthcare regulations, particularly patient privacy and data security laws. With health records management, we organize and classify their health records. We want to make sure that they're organized because they usually are not. But we want to help them stay organized as far as how they maintain their records, how they retrieve their records, how they keep track of their records, and what we keep track of as far as our reports. Because remember, we also write reports based off these records. So we want to also make sure that we're staying efficient, and that we're excuse me, and that we're maintaining the proper storage of our information and things like that. Data accuracy and integrity. We're trying to make sure. Another big thing in our role is making sure that all of the records are accurate. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten a report where the report is missing a few pages. And it might be because of the client removing those pages. So that's why we always ask for records from both the opposing counsel and we ask for records from the healthcare facility, because the facility has to release all of the records. Opposing counsel just has to send us what they get. So sometimes information is missing from what they get because they don't necessarily care. They have to give us the information. They don't necessarily care to give us everything in certain situations. So we have to make sure that everything is accurate. We're doing quality checks. We're doing just about anything to make sure that everything is there. So next slide. And this is part of that same information management, similar thing. We are looking at the EMR system, the EHR system to make sure everything is in there. for reporting, for extraction, for analysis, for anything. We want to make sure that the system is working properly for them and that they have a system that follows all HIPAA laws. That I can't stress that enough. Collaboration with healthcare providers. Like I said, we're going to be corresponding with different healthcare providers. And I should have put corresponding with insurance companies, everything. So we are the liaison between the law firms and the healthcare providers to gather all of that necessary information for them to take in the courts. So we just have to be able to communicate with both of them, both the healthcare provider and the law firm, to be able to bridge that gap for them. So that's why it's a double-edged sword, because we are working both sides of the field. We are both the healthcare assistant and the law firm assistant. So we have to have understanding of both. And then expert testimony and evidence preparation. Like I said, we have something where we reach out to, in my field, when I was working at the two different law firms. The second one, I didn't have to do expert testimony. I didn't have to reach out to different experts. But in the first one, they relied on me heavily to reach out to different experts for their testimony and for their reports. And who it essentially usually would fall down to is a radiologist. So radiologists would review the x-rays and things like that of the injuries that the people would say, or that people would claim that they received from the different accidents. And I would reach out to them, give them all of the case information, give them all of the medical records, and they would create this report. And I would review that report and make sure nothing was missing. And then I would sometimes, depending on the attorney, I would explain this report to the attorney and tell them, okay, this is the information that they have. This is what we have as far as what I have in my treatment summary, or excuse me, not treatment summary, in my summary, in my chronological summary. And I want, this is the discrepancy that I'm seeing. And that's basically how you would present it to some of them. Some of them would just review it and know what they're looking at, but some of them, they do require that additional assistance. So next one. All right, so skills and qualifications for these roles. So like I said, you have to have a legal knowledge. I came from having knowledge with SIOX. I don't know if some of you have worked in that position or in that company, but SIOX does a lot with retrieval and with release of information and things like that. So having that background is crucial. Shamara, that's definitely. Oh, okay, that's cool, Vanez. Yeah, having that information is crucial because they deal with a lot of retrieval and a lot of receipt of information and everything like that. So it's, when going to these different positions, if you've worked a ROI or release of information position, then you can explain that you have the legal knowledge to assist them with their different releasing, I guess, duties, releasing responsibilities, and retrieval responsibilities, things of that nature. Medical knowledge. Okay, working on time. Medical knowledge. Yeah, we all have knowledge of medical terminology. We all have an understanding of medical reports because, most of us see them on a daily. But it's a little bit of a deeper dive when we review the medical records. You have to be able to look at the medical record and know what you're looking at and be able to see it in that way every single time. Not see it in that way every single time, because each record is going to be different. So an orthopedic record is going to look different than a chiropractic record, and a chiropractic record is going to look different than a hospital record, and so on and so forth. So when you look at these different records, you have to know what you're looking at and know what you need to extract from these records. So that's what's having a medical knowledge and a legal knowledge all at the same time. And attention to detail, like I said, if you're looking at these records, you have to look at them in a great detail because we're trying to get not as much information as we can, but we're trying to get the crucial information for the attorneys so that way they can present all this information in law, because in court. Because remember, all of the information that we give to these attorneys is going to be in a legal proceeding of some sort. It's either going to be in a deposition, they're either going to take it to trial, or it could just be used prior, some cases settle out of court. So it could even be used in that situation. So one of the attorneys was nice enough to come back there and at my first law firm, it's nice enough to come back there and show me what my work actually did for him, and he highlighted all the information that he used in court. And it came from my chronology report. So I thought that was really, really cool. So it's very important that we pay close attention to detail and we have that medical knowledge and that legal knowledge to back up what we're providing to the attorneys. And then it goes without saying, a strong organizational skills, have to be able to manage multiple tasks. We handle so many cases at a time. It's not just one case at a time. I think my caseload was maybe like, because I came in when they were backed up, so it was maybe like 50 to 100 cases that I think they needed, and I worked under 1, 2, 3, 4 attorneys at a time. And that's a lot. So when you get into this field, you'll notice that, working under 1 attorney is a lot. So working under 4 is a whole lot. So it's a lot of different records that you'll see, a lot of different cases you'll see. You have to just be able to manage that. All right, and next slide. Yeah, I think I'll get on time. All right, yeah, 46. Yeah, same thing. Communication skills goes without saying. Like I said, you're going to be reaching out to different medical professionals, legal professionals, things like that. Computer proficiency. We're using an EHR system, an EMR system, but we're also using Microsoft Word and Microsoft Excel a lot in this position. They use Excel to kind of keep track of their case information. In some points, they use it to keep track of like the numbers, how many records they're doing, things like, or how many you're doing, and things like that, or how many cases are out. And then of course they use Word to write up, or we will use Word to write up these chronology reports. We also use PDF, because sometimes the attorneys want the Word file as a PDF once we're completed. So that way they can print it out or they can, mark it up instead of having to mark up a Word that'll change. They want to mark up something that'll never change. So yeah. So, and in some roles, they'll even ask you for, they'll even have a medical billing and coding system, because they will look at the coding that's in some of these reports, which is wild. But yeah, they'll look at the coding for that and see if it was coded properly, or if it was coded incorrectly, or if they overcharged for something, or if they undercharged or something, things like that. Certification, credentials, and or license. So I wanted to add this part because, and I want to stress that it's not necessary to have any of these things. Like I said, I did help someone get into a role and she did not have an RHIA, RHIT, paralegal license or anything. She just had experience, but it does contribute to your pay. And it does help them understand how you can help with their how you can help them. Because if they see RHIA, RHIT, that's the first thing they ask me, so you have an RHIT, what does that mean? And I explained to them, like I said, in the great detail that I did, and they were like, whoa. So I believe they had like 3 or 4 candidates and they chose me. And the candidates all, I think one of them had a paralegal. She went on to tell me because we became friends, but one of them had a paralegal license. Or 2 of them had a paralegal license. One of them did not, and didn't have anything, but had paralegal experience. And they decided to choose me because it was highly medical. It was it's a medical paralegal back position. So, you will get chosen for this position if you can articulate why you're essential to that role. And so, but I did want to add that a license and certification does help. So relevant education, you can get, they have paralegal studies, they have healthcare administration. For those that are in health information technology, health information management, you already know that's relevant as well. And none, it's preferred that you have medical experience. So, relevant work experience, same thing. So yeah, next slide. Challenges and opportunities. So the challenges that I would see in this role mainly were with staying current with the different laws and regulations and making sure that I was in compliance with those laws and regulations. Like I said, their systems were outdated. I sometimes had to go and ask, hey, is it okay if I do this? Because it would fall under a HIPAA violation if I didn't. And they would, of course, most times they would, 10 times out of 10, they would say yes. So most situations they would allow me to do that. But it's making sure to stay current, making sure to relay that information to your lawyer or to the attorney who you tend to work under, because these law firms will have like 5 to 10 to even 20 different lawyers, but you'll work with like 1 or 2 or 3 maybe. So you just have to run most things by them or the paralegal in charge, because they'll also have a paralegal. They may have a medical paralegal, but they'll always have a paralegal who kind of handle most of their communication. And that's another thing that I wanted to add, is another challenge is communicating with lawyers. It's very difficult to communicate with a lawyer. Most lawyers that I know are very straightforward and very short. So communicating with them is very difficult at times. It can be very difficult. Good thing we don't have to communicate with them a lot. But when we do have to communicate with them, it's sometimes like, get to the point. That's what they're wanting. So you have to get straight to the point. They're very, very like, okay, what do you want to do about it? You know what I mean? So I think that's one of my bullets. Okay, yeah, difficulties of collaboration efforts between attorneys. Paralegals can sometimes be that way, but most times they're not. Most times they're the ones that communicate with you, and are okay with communicate with you. Opposing physicians, insurance companies, and other legal and medical professionals. Insurance companies can be difficult. Most times they're not, because they're backed by what they have to provide you. Physicians are always cool in my situation. They've always been okay to communicate with. Offices have always been okay to communicate with. Yeah. So next one is balancing the continuous workload. Oh, I'm sorry. You can go back. I wasn't. I'm sorry. Yeah, so balancing the continuous workload. Like I said, we will have sometimes between 50 to 100 cases that we have to do medical record summaries and timelines for, and get expert testimonies for, and review and all different things. And there's a time constraint. No worries. Thank you. Thank you. And there's a time constraint on that. So, and the time constraints are usually like 2 weeks for each one. So it's a lot of work. But it's never unmanageable. If you're able to organize. And that's why I say you have to have an organized mindset. You can't just go in here and think, okay, I'm gonna knock this out, knock this. No, you have to also be strategic with your work. It's triaging, it's triaging your work. What takes precedence? This case is coming up in 2 weeks. This case is coming up in 1 week. But this case that's coming up in 1 week, they don't have their deposition until such and such month. So I can push this back to this. You know what I mean? It's kind of like that, so to speak. So, and then when I say opportunities, the main one that I have is opportunities for professional growth and advancement. And I wrote that, but that's an umbrella term for what I'm about for everything, because when you get into the medical paralegal role, you could become the head medical paralegal, you could become the medical paralegal trainer, you can do all these different things, and they do not mind bumping you up in pay, especially if you're showing your worth to the company. It's so, in my opinion and in my experience, it's so much easier to excel in this role because everything is tangible. You can, you create the timelines, you create the chronology reports, you reach out to the providers provide feedback. The attorneys see that, and everything is tangible. So it's something that they could say, after your year review, they can say, you did such an amazing job And, we love what you did, and we love the direction that you've taken our company. We want to offer you this, or, anything, or you can say that, you can present that to them when you have your yearly review, because that's another thing that they do. In most of my positions that I've been in, my yearly review just said, you reached your quota. We're going to offer you made the standard pay. Good job. That was it. That was all. And I didn't like that. But in the positions that I've held, you know, they saw my worth, and I left one law firm and I loved it. Don't get me wrong. I loved both law firms that I was in. And they begged me to stay. They were asking me to stay. They said, what can we do to make you stay? They want us in these positions, because we have an understanding of this role. And if we're good at if we're organizational, and we're good at what we're doing, they will want to give us more. They'll want to support us in the best ways that we can, in the best ways that I didn't see the clinical setting doing for that. And I'm not trying to harp on, clinical setting being bad. Please don't get me wrong. It's not bad. But I just saw that, for me, it was better working for law firms than it was taking the clinical roles. So next slide. And I think I'm almost done. 4 minutes left. Okay. Yeah. So tips for securing the position. If you want, you can take a picture of this. Essentially, it's everything that I've stated. Gain relevant experience. That goes without saying. You definitely want, if you already have the experience, if you worked at these different roles, you will see that you already have that experience. Build a strong network. And this is when I was talking about legal people. That's the name of the legal staffing agency. You can reach out to Kirsten Dodd. She knows me directly. She's a very nice lady. She's amazing. For if you're in, if they service your area. But yeah, build a strong network of people, professional people. Reach out to different paralegal groups, because the paralegals are the ones that will kind of present you. If you try reaching out to attorneys, it's very difficult. Like I said, they're very difficult to get a hold of because they're very short and they kind of keep to themselves. But yeah, build a strong network, develop specialized knowledge. Like I said, you want to have an understanding of healthcare law, HIPAA compliance law, how to review medical records, like not just review what a medical record is, but the information in a medical record and how to display that information, things like that. Even utilizing Word and Excel to a certain degree. Create a strong resume and cover letter. That should go without saying. You want to, like I said, you want to highlight everything that's relevant. Prepare for interviews. I always tell people, I'm sure everybody always says, prepare for the interview. Research that law firm. You want to know that law firm. You want to know where it's located. You want to know what they do, how much they offer, what they pay, everything. But you want to be very specific when you research this law firm, so that way you know what you're getting into, because some of these law firms aren't that good. Just like any other job, but you want to definitely do your research on every law firm that reaches out to you, or every law firm that you reach out to. Show your commitment. Should go without saying. You definitely want to demonstrate your passion for the field of HIM, not just for the field of HIM. And then you want to, explain how you can, and I think I said this throughout the entire presentation, how you can help them grow. And then optional, definitely optional. It's definitely optional. If you don't have an RHIT or RHIA, you can earn a paralegal degree or a certification. Now, you don't have to get a degree to get a certification. You can be certified just by taking the test. You can study for it just like taking the coding exam. It's the same process. You study at your own time, or you can join a group and study, and then you can go take the test and receive your paralegal license. And then because you have a medical background, or you worked in medical work. I need to read that. Yeah, but because you have that background, you can definitely get into these positions more. So yeah. I'm reading Dr. Kenja's note. Should be out here. Yep. Oh, and that's it. So if anybody has any questions, yeah, be hard to personally understand what you meant. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, definitely, definitely. Um, exactly. Yeah, we definitely do more than file and scan. Like, I don't know. I, I really wish that's why I want to present this field, like, because we don't just file and scan in this field. We don't just release information and click and paste and do that. Like, we don't just do the simple work. We do the work that actually matters, in my opinion. We do work for we work for, and like I said, the first law firm that I worked for was a defense law firm. The next one, I believe, was just a law firm that worked in personal injury. So we help people. We help insurance companies. We help people not be sued. We help in that regard. So it's actually work that I feel um, was good. And, a little background, I actually don't work for a law firm anymore, but I work for a healthcare, excuse me, a behavioral health tech company on their legal team. So I'm actually on a legal team with other lawyers, with my certification. And because I had that background in working with a law firm, they saw that experience, and they said, we want you to work with our lawyers now. So it definitely does bring value, having that background, and having that understanding. Oh, thank you, Ramita. Thank you, thank you.
Awesome. So Aaron, I have scanned the chat, as I think you have scanned the chat as well. I don't see any questions particularly that has come from the audience, but I do want to ask everyone in the audience, if you do have any questions for Aaron as we're wrapping up here, please feel free to drop those questions into the chat. There's also some other helpful information in the chat for you concerning your continuing education unit. Aaron, I want to say thank you. Thank you for this information that you have provided to us today. It definitely gives us a different perspective of HIM and HIM in a different world, right? Like we're so used to hearing about the clinical part, or we're used to hearing about coders, or different things like that. But taking this spin and showing us into the world of HIM in law is very, very interesting. I want to know from you, Aaron, just kind of recapping over your experience, what has been something that has been like your biggest takeaway? Walking and working in the law firm, what has been something that's been your greatest takeaway that you're going to apply, or that you can apply to your future positions or to your life even?
My greatest one, honestly, and this is so easy, my greatest one is that HIM is not a monolith. You don't have to just be in a clinical setting. You don't just have to be in a hospital. You don't just have to be at a release company. You don't just have to be even working in healthcare. You don't even have to do that, because anywhere that there is information that requires a certain level of security, you can work in that. That honestly, that's how I got into this role, is that I looked at it like medical paralegal. I've heard of paralegals. I've seen go to court cases. I've watched, everybody watches or have seen some type of court case at some degree. What's the one? Doom doom. What is that one? I can't remember that one, but if somebody can put it in the chat.
Law and Order.
Law and Order. There we go. Yes, yes, the People's Court. Yeah. So yeah, like even on those cases, like you see how medical information like helps in those particular cases. So it's not a monolith. You can definitely be in an HIM role at a grocery store, Publix. In my current role, um like I said, I'm on a legal team. We just got we just signed on Walmart for like their so now Walmart is helping or providing all of their employees with therapy, with their like therapy sessions, so that way it's part of like their benefits package. So you can work for Walmart, structuring, assisting with them and being that liaison between their therapist and their employer. It's so much that you can do in HIM, that doesn't have to come from a hospital or clinic or medical office. It can come from anywhere. So just never look at it like it's a monolith. Never look, if you don't want to. If you want to stay in the clinical setting, you definitely can. And it's still an amazing field, when you look at it from a clinical setting, but you don't have to, is what I'm saying. And there's so many other opportunities out there for whoever wants to do anything.
For sure. So definitely thinking outside of the box, looking outside of the box, and attending events like this so that we can learn more about what's available for HIM professionals. So again, Aaron, thank you. I think that this information has been very helpful. There are some thank yous in the chat as well. I do want to just remind everyone about what we have coming up. We are a little past time here, but that's okay. I hope it is okay for you all. Just want to remind you all that if you're not connected with the Qualified already on our social media platforms, then please do connect with us. We're constantly trying to provide you with content and also remind you of what we have coming up, so that you can connect, so that you can meet other professionals, other like-minded individuals, so that you can network, so that you can branch out and learn more about this profession and how expansive it is. And then also, we have a brunch and learn coming up next month. So the third Thursday of every month, we want to meet you right here. Next month, we have Miss Trivia Kimbrough joining us, and she's going to be talking about coding. So to any of our coders out in the audience, please come back and be with us next month on the 17th at same time, same place, okay? 11 a.m. until 12 p.m. Eastern time. And if you know of any other coders, then please do share this information with them so that they can join us as well. Everyone, we want to thank you so much for your attention today. Special, huge virtual hugs and thank yous to our presenter, Aaron Taylor. Thank you so much for being with us. As always, everyone, we wish you all the best. We hope that you continue to have an outstanding day, and we want to see you next month for our August Brunch and Learn. It's been a pleasure. Bye, everyone.